show up at 2 o'clock and I meet a guy, and he tells me, the first thing he tells me is, hey, look, my appearance is undercover, so don't mind my appearance. He hands me a business card, 2 top investigations. We go into an office. We talk about what he can do for me, what he can't do for me. He tells me what he can do for me if I pay him cash or if I pay him on a credit card or a check. Oh no, there was no credit card offer. It was actually just a check or cash. It was a much better deal if I paid him cash. I'm basically being set up 100%. He's like, hey, I only work with one particular attorney. And I'm like, who's that? And he's like, oh, it's this guy down the street at the McKinley Center. And we go down there and meet with the guy, and he's literally a Guido. This guy is 100% a criminal attorney. I sit down with him for about an hour. He's telling me and recommending that I go with them, and we leave at midnight, and we sleep in the back of the car while his driver drives us 6 hours through a snowstorm to Valdez. I'm like, no way. This is the same guy we caught in my home, and Chad Cummings would not arrest him or do anything. He had a 45 auto in his bag, and he went in my home, and Chad Cummings would not serve the peace in my front yard. So I get into the judicial system in Alaska. I get the attorney revolving door. This is a classic revolving door. It turns out all these people are LDS, and I'm not prejudiced against any religion. I actually grew up with most of my family being LDS, and I believe in all religions, and I believe all the basic principles are important. But I'm gonna have to call these guys $LDS people. These people are the people that, you know, think religion is for power and gain, and they perpetrate on others because they're so high and mighty in some higher power. I end up with Andrew Lambert. No, I end up with Dylan. He advises me to hire Evan Barrickman. Evan Barrickman is best friend with Jake Stacer, the city DA, who has ties to the A-Team vigilante group, Floyd Hall. And then he just says all the right things to make me not feel comfortable with him. So then I end up with Andrew Lambert. Andrew Lambert helps with orchestrating the fabricated restraining order in Chicago, helps me set up jurisdiction to win jurisdiction in Alaska, and then gives me really poor advice. So I get uncomfortable with him. I then hire Karen Nyquist. Karen Nyquist, the first question I asked her, are you related to Nick Nyquist? Because I had an employee out of Fairbanks who worked for my company who perpetrated a rotor strike insurance fraud in 2014. Absolutely not. I hire her. She helps orchestrate the fabricated restraining order in Chicago. She hides it from the judge. She presents that I have some $690,000 in my bank account to the judge, and in the same breath requests to be removed from my case. Judge Henderson is 100% setting me up. She lets her out of my case and even backs her up that she could charge me $44,000 for 2 hearings and 2 subpoenas and a lot of phone calls. For a month's work, that's a pretty good gig. The judge even goes as far as backs up Karen Nyquist to garnish my bank account after I paid her $22,000. I was absolutely not willing to pay her the rest of the money because she didn't perform that work that she was billing me for. Then I end up with the worst of the worst attorneys, is Blake Quackenbush. Blake Quackenbush takes my case. He doesn't do anything. He basically tells me when I'm telling about my concerns of what's going on, catching the guy in my house with a gun and other illegal issues that occurred during my case, he literally told me and recommended I go to church and be prepared to meet my maker. This guy has ties to the A-Team vigilante group in an article in the New York Times, claiming that everybody should carry a gun, is what he said. Well, I'm an Alaskan and I believe in guns. I don't believe in preaching that to the public, especially in a New York Times article. He burns me to the ground. He gets the judge to release him from my case. Doesn't present any of the factual financials regarding my wife's embezzlement or what I was worth or what I had in my bank. And then literally goes on even further to run up more of a bill performing work after he was 100% not, after he got himself removed from my case, runs up a bill, and just to back himself up, calls the director of the bar, the Alaska bar. The Alaska director of the Alaska bar told him, absolutely, you charge Mr. Cummings. This is not the slave trade era. I mean, I'm dealing with some pretty serious stuff here in corruption. Then David Henderson, out of the blue, who's been advising me this entire time and staying abreast of my case because he's supposedly a client of mine that's been flying with me in my heli-ski business for years. He has his brother call me up, and his brother tells me, Dean, I'm in Utah and I'm going through a horrendous divorce, and I got tased by five marshals here in Utah. I open up and tell him that I'm going through a pretty difficult divorce myself, and within an hour, David Henderson is at my hotel room in Anchorage at the Nextel Hotel in Anchorage, Alaska. David Henderson literally starts advising me and telling me he can't take my case, but he'll advise me through the steps. And I'm lawyerless, so I'm getting eaten alive by the courts. They're serving me more motions every single day. Mendel and Corbett and Karen's, I don't know, what she had, 3 attorneys in Illinois. Mendel and Corbett, the attorneys in Illinois. I've got Brenneville and Clarkson, which is a law firm, I think, of 8 attorneys. And I've got this guy named Paul Moore, who's literally a mafia guy out of Lake Forest, Illinois. I got his attorneys working against me. And they even send an infiltration into my company. I end up with a guy named Tom Morrissey. And as soon as I got rid of Carissa, because we found she had destroyed 14,000 client files, 15 years of emails and 3 different accounts, got a credit card behind my back without my knowledge and permission to help perpetrate a restraining order in Chicago saying I was armed and dangerous in Chicago. And she ended up being made the owner of my contract at the local phone company, Copper Valley Telephone. Chris Spencer is an old friend of Paul Moore's who helped him put a phone line across the Atlantic Ocean 20 years ago. He's now the CFO at the phone company, making my office manager the owner of my cell phone contract. Everyone's wondering how I'm being hacked. So I open up this reality that, wow, this is a huge federal, state, and municipality corruption, and I'm the one guy that pulled the wrong nail out of the wood and opened up this entire thing. So
we
I don't even know what to say at this point. It's too much.